such an important part of running your business, because you need to be telling stories in your business to make your readers actually understand what it is you do, and to engage them and make them feel a part of what you're talking about. Okay, so there's lots of different aspects to storytelling, and storytelling in business in particular. But what I want to cover today is one of the reasons why we need to do stories, why we need to tell stories. And that is, um, it really helps with the getting your message across. Because if you just, for two reasons really why. Is the first reason is, if you're just telling people what you know, that gets boring after a while. You've probably been in situations yourself where you've attended some kind of seminar or conference, or a meeting at work, and you walk into the room quite excited about hearing what they're going to say, and you're going to learn something, or they've got some news that they are reporting, and you're quite in a good mood, and you're thinking, yeah, I'm going to enjoy this. And then the presentation starts, and it's fact and slide after fact and slide, and then the room starts to lose energy. People start to get on their phones, and that's not what you want when you're making a presentation. So you know yourself, if you're watching someone or you're listening to someone making a presentation, if all they're doing is just regurgitating facts at you, it's not very rewarding for you to listen to. And after a while, the human brain just kind of switches off and goes and entertains itself somewhere else, right? Another reason we need to tell stories is that stories just make the communication so much clearer. When you hear a story, a kind of like a metaphor, if you like, that you can relate, tell the learning through a story rather than through a fact, people will remember it a lot easier. They'll definitely remember it a lot easier. I'll give you an example of that. Was years ago when my daughter was very small. She had a little history lesson kind of thing where we did a mind map of this history lesson, and it told a story through the mind map. All right. And it was highly visual, and it told a story. And she can still remember the information on that mind map today. And that is, like, we're talking about 15 years later. Yeah, she can still remember that. If we had just told her the dates and times of what happened in history, she wouldn't remember at all, right? So when we tell stories, this helps with memory, and it helps people to understand the message that you're saying. So let me give you an example of this. So one of the things that's happened in my business in recent times, because I run a copywriting business, is obviously ChatGPT and other AI writing tools have come up and completely changed the way people communicate in writing, right? And the way they create their content. Because, to be fair, all of these tools are so efficient, they're so fast, they do wonderful things. And you can't put the genie back in the bottle. These things are here to stay. You've got to work with them. There's no point fighting against them, right? So, but over the few years that they've been around, people have tinkered with them, and with different results. Some people absolutely love them because it makes their messages suddenly grammatically correct. They don't have to worry about grammar errors anymore. Other people are frustrated because they thought it would be better, and what they're getting is just regurgitated, boring information in a templated format that you can easily recognize as being one of these AI writing tools. And of course, that is not the only thing that you can get out of these tools, but it really is a case of the user. What you get in is what you get, determines what you get out of it, right? So it's really looking at ChatGPT and all of these writing tools as what they are. They are tools. So I like to tell a story about this. So let me just show you how telling a story about the fact that I'm trying to get across is that ChatGPT can be good if you use it the right way, but it's just a tool. If you don't use it the right way, you're not going to get what you need out of it. So the story I usually use to illustrate this is, I'm showing my age now here, a story long ago, long time ago, once upon a time, there was I was living in London. I grew up in London. So I was living in London, and I went to see a concert at Camden Town in London in a very small, it was a small gig. And I was at the front row at the stage at this concert. And it was an amazing concert. I think about it now looking back, and it's like, wow, I'm just so glad I was there. So glad I was there. So, as I said, I'm going to date myself now. So, I went to see, in the lineup was Ian Jury and the Blockheads, Motorhead, and Madness. Three very different bands, all gelled together somehow. I don't know how it happened, but it was a brilliant, brilliant concert. Absolutely fantastic. So, anyway, I went to this concert, and I was at the front row of the concert, and I was watching Ian Jury at the time. And there was a man standing next to me who was a professional photographer. He had one of these, zoom lens cameras, very professional looking thing. And he was taking all his pictures. And obviously, he was a professional photographer hired to go and take photos at the concert. And these photos would have been sold to some newspaper or rock magazine, something like that, right? So, and I was well aware he was a professional photographer when I was there. And a part of the way through the concert, he turned to me and said, "Would you like me to take some photos with your camera?" And I had one of these instant automatic cameras. And again, showing my age in those days, it was a 35 millimeter film, and you had to go and get the film processed in a shop and go and collect your photos a few days later, right? Wasn't the digital cameras we have today that we take for granted. So when you're taking photos, you had to take a lot of photos because you had no idea whether you'd captured something good or not, because there was nothing to refer to, right? So I was snapping away. I was taking my photos of Ian Jury. So this guy asked me, "Can you shall I take some photos with your camera?" And I was just I kind of handed my camera over to him, but I was a bit confused because I was thinking, what good is this going to do? This is really weird because my camera's rubbish. Like, look at his camera. My camera's rubbish. What's the point of him taking pictures with my camera? I would need his camera. He'd need to give me his pictures, right? So anyway, I let him take the pictures. Didn't really think anything more of it. Said thank you, obviously, when he gave me my camera back. But I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, okay, that was a bit weird. And then I have my photos developed, and oh my goodness, what a difference it was, right? So I looked through, I was going through all the pictures as you do one by one. Yeah, it's like, they're okay. And then suddenly I came across this absolutely fantastic picture of Ian Jury, clear as day, and just a really interesting picture. And it was like, oh my God, what is this? This is not the same as all my other pictures. And so he had used my camera. I had used my camera. And so all the pictures that I took were blah, right? They weren't really very good. And then the couple of pictures that he took on my camera were absolutely fantastic. They looked like professional pictures. And it was the same tool. He was using the same tool that I was using. But obviously, he knew how to use it in a better way. And he could make an average tool work very well for him because he knew the tools and the tricks of the trade and everything. So it was the composition of the image, it was the lighting, it was the angle he was taking it at. It made all the difference. It wasn't the camera. And that's when I realized, oh my God, it isn't the camera, it's me, right? I'm not a photographer. I don't know how to take good photographs. It's not me. It's not the camera, it's me. And that's really what people are going through in ChatGPT now, is they are using the tool, but they don't have those secrets, the composition, the angle, that kind of stuff. They don't have that in order to get something really good out of it. Another example I often give as well is the same with, like, I play the saxophone. And if you give a professional saxophone player a starter saxophone, which is just a basic saxophone, and it would sound terrible with someone starting on the saxophone. It's not going to sound great. But with a professional saxophone player playing these starter saxophones, you'd be hard pressed to hear the difference between that and a good saxophone. Obviously, there is some difference, but it's not a great chasm like it is if it was a starter person playing the saxophone. So it's not the tool, it's the person using the tool. So if you don't know how to get the best out of ChatGPT, it doesn't matter what you put into it, you are not going to get what you need out of it. So you have to know the ins and outs. All right. So can you see how when I'm telling that story that um, it paints a much clearer picture of why I'm trying to tell you that you need to understand how to use ChatGPT properly, right? It's the tool. It's a tool. It's only as good as the user. So it's with anything in life, anything that you can think about. Any tool is only as good as the user using it. So when I tell a story like that, that becomes really obvious and very clear. And then it's likely that you will remember this story yourself months down the road. If I'd have just come on here and said to you, ChatGPT is only as good as what you put into it, you're going to go, yeah, blah, right? And it's not inspiring. It's, you're being talked at, you're not being talked to, and it's something that you will dismiss and you won't remember later on down the line. But because I've told you a story that illustrates the importance of having been able to use a tool correctly, now you will remember that and you'll associate that with ChatGPT and realize, okay, I need to do something about learning this tool properly in order to get the best of it. And in fact, if you met me later on, 3 months down the line, you'd be able to tell that story back to me. All right, so I hope that's helped, that you can see the power of storytelling as you're marketing your business.